November 4th, 1989. Gulfstream Park, Hallandale Beach, Florida. The whole racing world had waited months for this. Sunday Silence stood in the starting gate, dark, lean, scarred, and still doubted, even after winning the Kentucky Derby and Preakness Stakes. Across from him was Easy Goer, the horse many people still believed was better. The beautiful chestnut from the powerful East Coast stable, the champion 2-year-old. The horse with the perfect stride, the royal breeding, and the kind of look that made horsemen fall in love before he ever reached the track. This was the Breeders' Cup Classic, but it felt bigger than one race. It felt like a final judgment. The 1989 season had been built around two horses who could not escape each other. Sunday Silence had beaten Easy Goer in the Kentucky Derby. Then he had beaten him again in the Preakness by a nose after one of the most brutal stretch duels racing had ever seen. Then Easy Goer had answered in the Belmont Stakes, crushing Sunday Silence by 8 lengths and denying him the Triple Crown. Now, almost 5 months later, they were meeting one last time. The score between them was not just about wins and losses anymore. It was about identity. East Coast against West Coast. Beauty against toughness. Pedigree against survival. The golden boy against the horse many people never wanted to love. Easy Goer had the look of a classic champion. He came from the famous Ogden Phipps stable, trained by Shug Magari, with the blue-blooded Polish of a horse who seemed born for greatness. Sunday Silence looked different. He had nearly died as a young horse. He had been overlooked. He had been criticized for his looks and his awkward way of moving. He was not the horse racing's old guard wanted as its king. To some people, he looked too rough, too narrow, too plain, too strange to be the best horse in America. But every time the two horses met on the biggest stage, Sunday Silence kept finding a way. Now the Breeders' Cup Classic would decide the question everyone had argued about all year. Was Easy Goer the more talented horse, or was Sunday Silence simply the one who knew how to win? When the gates opened, the final chapter began. The field broke cleanly, and the two rivals settled into the race. Sunday Silence, now ridden by Chris McCarron, found position. Easy Goer, with Pat Day, waited for the moment to unleash the long, powerful stride that had made him famous. Around the far turn, the race tightened. The crowd could feel what was coming. The entire season had been pointing toward one final stretch run, one final charge, one final answer. Sunday Silence moved first. Easy Goer came after him. Down the stretch, the golden boy was closing. Every stride brought him nearer. The gap was shrinking, and the finish line was coming. Sunday. Silence was in front, but Easy Goer had one last chance to take the race, the championship, and the story away from him. McCarron kept riding. Sunday. Silence kept fighting. Easy Goer kept coming. At the wire, Sunday Silence held on by a neck. He had beaten Easy Goer again. The horse America had doubted, criticized, and refused to fully accept, had won the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, and the Breeders' Cup Classic in the same year. He was named Horse of the Year and champion 3-year-old male for 1989, finishing the season with a 3-to-1 edge over Easy Goer in their head-to-head meetings. But the argument did not end that day. In some ways, it never ended. This is the story of Sunday Silence and Easy Goer, the rivalry that split horse racing, how a rough-looking California horse beat the golden boy of the East, why fans argued over them like they were choosing sides in a war, and how Sunday Silence went from unwanted champion to one of the most important stallions the world had ever seen. Sunday Silence was born on March 25, 1986, in Kentucky. From the beginning, his life did not look like the beginning of a perfect racing legend. He was a dark bay colt by halo out of Wishing Well, and although his bloodlines were strong, he was not the kind of foal people immediately treated like royalty. He had a narrow build, unusual movement, and a look that some horsemen did not love. Then came the accident. As a young horse, Sunday Silence was involved in a serious van crash. The accident killed the driver, and the colt was injured badly enough that his future was uncertain. A horse's body is fragile, especially when young. One serious trauma can end a racing career before it begins. Sunday Silence survived, but survival was not the same as being wanted. He was eventually purchased by a partnership connected to Arthur Hancock and sent to legendary trainer Charlie Whittingham in California. Whittingham was already one of the great horsemen in American racing. He was older, experienced, patient, and respected for his ability to handle horses over time. He did not need a horse to look perfect in the sales ring. He cared about what a horse could do when it mattered. Sunday Silence gave him something to work with, but even then, the colt did not become famous overnight. He made only 3 starts as a 2-year-old in 1988. He finished second in his debut, won his second start, and finished second again in an allowance race. There was talent there, but nothing yet that told the entire country he was about to become one of the most talked-about horses of the decade. While Sunday Silence was still developing in California, Easy Goer was already a star in New York. Easy Goer was born on March 21, 1986, only 4 days before Sunday Silence. He was a chestnut colt, bred and owned by Ogden Phipps, one of the most powerful names in American racing. His sire was Alydar, the great rival of Affirmed, and his dam was Relaxing, a champion mare. Everything about Easy Goer's background suggested class. He looked the part too. Easy Goer was big, handsome, and elegant, with the kind of stride that made people believe he was something special. As a 2-year-old, he became the champion of his division. He won major races and entered 1989 with a reputation that Sunday Silence did not have yet. To many people, Easy Goer was the chosen one, the horse who looked like greatness, the horse from the famous stable, the horse trained by Shug Magari, a careful, respected trainer who had built his reputation with class and patience, the horse ridden by Pat Day, one of the best jockeys in America. Easy Goer had the image, the breeding, the East Coast attention, the old racing establishment behind him. Sunday Silence had California, Charlie Whittingham, and a body people kept doubting. That contrast became the heart of the rivalry. In 1989, Sunday Silence started changing the story. He began his 3-year-old season by winning an allowance race at Santa Anita. Then, he won the San Felipe Stakes. Then came the Santa Anita Derby, one of the most important Kentucky Derby prep races in California. Sunday Silence did not just win, he dominated by 11 lengths. That victory forced the racing world to take him seriously. The strange-looking colt from the West was not just a nice horse, he was a real Kentucky Derby contender. Still, even after that, many people preferred Easy Goer. Easy Goer had also prepared for the Derby with major wins. He was the champion 2-year-old. He was the horse many believed had the highest ceiling. When the 2 horses arrived at Churchill Downs, the rivalry already had shape, but it had not yet exploded. May 6, 1989, Churchill Downs, the Kentucky Derby. The track was wet and muddy, and that mattered immediately. Easy Goer did not handle the mud the way his supporters wanted. He struggled to find his best stride. Sunday Silence, on the other hand, moved through it better and put himself into position. Pat Valenzuela rode Sunday Silence that day. He understood that the Derby was not about beauty or public opinion. It was about finding a way to win under pressure, through traffic, noise, mud, and chaos. Sunday Silence made his move and took control. Easy Goer came after him, but the favorite could not catch him. Sunday Silence won the Kentucky Derby by 2.5 lengths. Easy Goer finished second. The first major battle belonged to the horse many had doubted, but the result did not settle the debate. It made it louder. Easy Goer's fans had an explanation. The muddy track had hurt him. The Derby had not shown who was truly better. On a dry track, they believed, Easy Goer would prove it. Sunday Silence's supporters had a simpler answer. Their horse had won. 2 weeks later, the argument moved to Baltimore. May 20th, 1989. Pimlico Racecourse, the Preakness Stakes. This time, there would be no easy explanation. The race became one of the most dramatic stretch duels in modern Triple Crown history. Easy Goer made his move. Sunday Silence went with him. The 2 horses turned into the stretch and locked together. Neither would give in. Easy Goer looked like he might finally push past. Sunday Silence dug down and fought back. The crowd watched two elite colts throw everything they had into one furious drive to the wire. The finish was almost too close to believe. Sunday Silence won by a nose. A nose, one of the smallest margins in racing. He had beaten Easy Goer again, and now he had the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness. The Triple Crown was alive. The horse many people still refuse to love was one race away from immortality. The Preakness is still remembered as one of the great races of the rivalry, with Sunday Silence defeating Easy Goer by a nose after a fierce stretch battle. But again, the debate did not end. Some Easy Goer supporters believed Pat Day had made a mistake in the stretch. Others believed Easy Goer had moved too soon or lost focus. Sunday Silence had the trophy, but Easy Goer still had believers who insisted the better horse had not shown his best. That is what made this rivalry so intense. Every time Sunday Silence won, people found reasons to keep arguing. The next race was the Belmont Stakes, June 10th, 1989. Belmont Park, 1.5 miles. The test of the champion. Sunday Silence entered with a chance to become the first Triple Crown winner since affirmed in 1978. He had already beaten Easy Goer twice. He had already shown toughness in the Derby and courage in the Preakness. All he needed was one more win. But Belmont Park was Easy Goer's home. The track was dry, the distance was long, and this time, Easy Goer finally delivered the race his fans had been waiting for. When Sunday Silence moved, Easy Goer moved better. He swept past and opened up. Down the stretch, there was no nose finish, no muddy excuse, no late argument. Easy Goer won by 8 lengths. His time was 2:26, one of the fastest Belmont Stakes ever, behind only Secretariat's impossible 2:24 at the time. Sunday Silence finished second. Easy Goer had denied him the Triple Crown and proved that on that day, at that distance, on that track, he was brilliant. Now the rivalry had reached its most complicated point. Sunday Silence had won the Derby and Preakness. Easy Goer had won the Belmont in dominant fashion. Sunday Silence had the two biggest wins. Easy Goer had the most impressive single victory between them. The question was no longer simple. Who was better? The horse who kept winning the close ones? Or the horse who, at his best, looked like he might be the more talented runner? After the Belmont, the two horses went separate ways for several months. Easy Goer stayed in New York and went on a powerful winning streak. He won the Whitney Handicap, the Travers Stakes, the Woodward Stakes, and the Jockey Club Gold Cup. 4 Grade 1 victories in a row. He looked magnificent. He looked like the golden boy again. He looked like the horse many had always believed he was. Sunday Silence went back west. He lost the Swap Stakes to Prized, then later won the Super Derby at Louisiana Downs. His season was still excellent, but Easy Goer's supporters believed their horse had taken control of the second half of the year. That set up the final showdown. The Breeders' Cup Classic, a race created to bring champions together. And in 1989, it had exactly what racing wanted. Sunday Silence against Easy Goer one last time. The winner would almost certainly be Horse of the Year. The loser would have to live with the argument forever. The Classic was run at Gulfstream Park on November 4th, 1989. Sunday, Silence had a new jockey, Chris McCarron, after Pat Valenzuela had ridden him through the Triple Crown races. Easy Goer still had Pat Day. The whole season had narrowed into one race. The Breeders' Cup Classic was not just East against West anymore. It was a fight over memory. If Easy Goer won, people could say the Belmont had revealed the truth. They could say the Derby was mud, the Preakness was a mistake, and the Golden Boy had finished the year on top. If Sunday Silence won, the answer would be impossible to ignore. 3 wins over Easy Goer in 4 meetings. Kentucky Derby, Preakness, Breeders' Cup Classic, Horse of the Year. The race unfolded with rising tension. Sunday Silence made his move and took the lead. Easy Goer came charging late. Once again, the two horses were tied together in the final yards of a massive race. Once again, Easy Goer was trying to take something from him at the wire. But Sunday Silence held on. By a neck. He had beaten Easy Goer again. The rivalry was over. Sunday Silence had won the season. He finished 1989 with 7 wins from 9 starts and earned Horse of the Year honors in a decisive vote. The Breeders' Cup notes that his classic victory by a neck helped secure both Horse of the Year and Champion 3-year-old colt titles. But even after the award, the arguments continued. That is what made Sunday Silence and Easy Goer different from a normal rivalry. There was no clean emotional ending where everyone agreed. Sunday Silence had the better head-to-head record. Easy Goer had the Belmont blowout and the admiration of many horsemen. Sunday Silence won the biggest votes. Easy Goer kept the loyalty of fans who believed talent and beauty had been beaten by toughness and timing. It was not just about the horses. It was about what people value in greatness. Easy Goer looked like greatness. Sunday Silence fought like greatness. Easy Goer had the smoother image. Sunday Silence had the harsher story. Easy Goer was the horse people wanted to believe in. Sunday Silence was the horse who kept ruining the script. That is why the title fits. The horse America hated may be too strong if taken literally, because Sunday Silence had plenty of fans, especially in California. But in the larger racing culture, he was often treated like the unwanted champion. The horse people doubted. The horse people criticized. The horse who did not look the way they wanted a champion to look. The horse who kept being compared unfavorably to Easy Goer even after beating him. And that made his victories feel almost rebellious. Every time he beat Easy Goer, he was not just beating a rival. He was beating the idea of what a champion was supposed to look like. Sunday Silence's career continued into 1990, but it did not last long. He won the Californian Stakes and finished second in the Hollywood Gold Cup. But then an injury forced his retirement. His final record was 14 starts, 9 wins, and 5 seconds. He never finished worse than second in his career. He earned more than $4.9 million, which made him one of the highest-earning racehorses in history at the time. That alone would have made him a major horse. But Sunday Silence's second life became even more important than his first. In America, he was not as valued as a stallion as his racing record suggested he should be. Breeders still had doubts. Some did not like his look. Some did not love his pedigree. Some could not move past the same judgments that had followed him as a racehorse. So Sunday Silence was sold to Japan. That decision changed global racing history. At Shaddai Stallion Station, Sunday Silence became one of the most important sires the world had ever seen. He transformed Japanese thoroughbred racing. He became the leading sire in Japan year after year, producing champions and reshaping pedigrees across the country. His influence was so massive that modern Japanese racing cannot be understood without him. The horse America had not fully embraced became a king somewhere else. There is something almost perfect about that ending. Sunday Silence spent his racing career proving people wrong, then spent his breeding career proving them wrong again. He became the leading sire in Japan from 1995 through 2007 and one of the most powerful breeding influences in modern racing. Easy Goer's story ended much sooner. After his racing career, he went to stud at Claiborne Farm, but he died in 1994 at only 8 years old. His early death meant he never had the chance to build the kind of breeding legacy people hoped for. That added another layer of sadness to his story. The golden horse, who had seemed destined for everything, left too early. Sunday Silence died in Japan on August 19, 2002. By then, his legacy had become enormous. He was not only the horse who beat Easy Goer, he was the horse who helped change the future of an entire racing nation. In America, the debate over 1989 never fully disappeared. In Japan, there was no debate about what he meant. He was a foundation. That is what makes the rivalry even more fascinating in hindsight. In 1989, people argued about who was better. Decades later, the answer depends on what question you ask. On raw talent, many still argue for Easy Goer. On head-to-head results, Sunday Silence won 3 of 4. On 1989 achievements, Sunday Silence was Horse of the Year. On breeding legacy, Sunday Silence changed history. That is why the story lasts. It is not simple. Easy Goer was not overrated. He was brilliant. His Belmont was one of the great performances of the decade. His 4 Grade 1 wins after the Belmont were incredible. He was a great horse, who happened to lose 3 close races to another great horse. Sunday Silence was not lucky. He was tough, talented, and relentless. He did not win because Easy Goer failed every time. He won because when the race was close and the pressure was highest, Sunday Silence fought harder at the wire. That is the heart of the rivalry. Easy Goer may have looked like the better horse. Sunday Silence kept proving the race still had to be run. The Derby showed Sunday Silence could handle chaos. The Preakness showed he could survive a war. The Belmont showed Easy Goer could be devastating when everything suited him. The Breeders' Cup Classic showed Sunday Silence could answer one final challenge and take the year. 4 meetings. 4 unforgettable chapters. One rivalry that still makes racing fans argue. And maybe that is exactly how it should be remembered. Not as one horse being exposed. Not as one horse being fake. But as 2 champions born in the same year, forced to define each other. Without Easy Goer, Sunday Silence's story is not as dramatic. He still wins major races, but the season does not have the same tension. The doubt does not feel as sharp. The victories do not feel as personal. Without Sunday Silence, Easy Goer might be remembered as the brilliant golden champion who ruled his generation. Instead, he became the beautiful horse who kept running into the one rival he could not consistently get past. They needed each other to become legends. That is what great rivalries do. They do not make the winner smaller. They make the winner prove more. And they do not make the loser meaningless. They make the loser unforgettable. Sunday Silence was the horse who survived the crash, survived the criticism, survived the mud, survived the duel, survived the Belmont defeat, and came back in the Classic to win the final argument. Easy Goer was the horse who carried beauty, breeding, and expectation, then delivered one of the most powerful Belmont victories ever, only to be denied the season by a rival who refused to disappear. One was the Golden Boy. One was the outsider. One looked like destiny. One fought like revenge. On November 4th, 1989, at Gulfstream Park, Easy Goer came flying at Sunday Silence one last time. The finish line was close, the championship was waiting, and the entire year seemed to shrink into the space between 2 horses. Easy Goer reached for him. Sunday Silence held him off, by a neck, and with that, the horse many people had doubted became the horse nobody could deny.